Welcome back to Slithering Salamanderscapes. I hope everyone is doing well. I know it's been a while since I uploaded. In my last video, I talked about how my wife and I recently had a baby at the end of last year. So those of you who know or have kids understand your priorities change a little bit. So I haven't really been able to upload as much as I would like, or frankly work on a lot of the DIY projects and tank updates, care guides, things like that. So apologize for that. I hope this year I'll be able to work this in with the baby and everything, but just be patient. I'll upload when I can. It's not like I don't want to, it's just a lot less time between my job and daddy duties and diapers up to my knees. So with that being said, I've got some really cool things that I want to do. I am going to be working on a 5-gallon aquarium, standard aquarium, just kind of yay big. I haven't worked on anything that small, so I think it'll be interesting, changing kind of my mindset and how I want to put things together, but not even really sure what I'm going to put in or if anything at all, but I just want to build a really cool habitat for something. And so I am going to kind of just build this as I go, and we will see. But it'll definitely be a habitat for some kind of amphibian, likely not water-based, just because you're dealing with such a small size. Cyanobacteria and things can go pretty easily in that. And frankly, I don't really like drilling glass on tanks that are under 10 gallons. It just gets pretty dicey, and I don't really want to break the tank. So thinking something more terrestrial, like a vivarium, just a small kind of biome. But with that, let's get started and let's see what we do here. All right, let's get cracking here. This is a 5-gallon aquarium. I've had it for some time, just been hesitant to use it because I don't typically work with smaller aquariums. I always tend to think that the enclosures bigger is better, but this will be a nice challenge for me. I think it'll be really cool to create a mini biome. I can't remember which big box retailer I got it at. It was PetSmart or Petco a long time ago. I can't really remember, but here are the dimensions in case you are wondering. Then what I'm going to do here is I am going to take some isopropyl rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to put it on a paper towel here, and I'm just going to clean off the inside. Kind of cleaned off there was some residue from some stickers and things like that were on it. So I just clean everything out really well. It's always a good practice, kind of a habit of mine. You can use water as well. I'm just in the habit of using this. The other thing that I'm going to do here is I am going to use this corrugated plastic. I had this, I cut it to size. Not great, it's pretty messy and drilled holes. This is for a lid. So this will be good for any amphibian. It is pretty much escape proof, unless something can crawl through that hole, which I doubt. Maybe some fruit flies. Again, you can see I didn't do a great job, but this is paramount. We'll also keep in humidity. It's really easy to take on and off, and it does not warp like acrylic. So I try to use these a lot, and that is how I keep my animals in their enclosures, because they are escape artists. Another thing here is that I am not going to drill the glass. I am going to use this PVC pipe and silicone it into the bottom, and I will siphon out the water either with a tube or I will siphon it out with a turkey baster. But it's just, the glass is just too thin for me. I know some people can do it. I am just not that skilled, so I will not be doing it. But I am just kind of eyeballing this, and I'm going to cut a length of this PVC that will be used, maybe just a couple inches, maybe something like that. You can just kind of brush this off here, and you can see that is about, so maybe 2.5, 3 inches, something like that. I can't really tell. Again, it doesn't really matter. It's really up to you. But again, this is just going to be for the false bottom, so I can't get the water out. But you can't just silicone it in like it is. You've got to actually cut, or in this case, I'm using a wire brush drill bit here to kind of take some edges off so water can get in. Otherwise, if you just silicone it, obviously nothing can get in. So you can either drill some holes or use some wire snippers or something like that, but I just chose to use this, and unfortunately it took me a while. I'm not going to show you how long that took me, but this is kind of a little blurry there, is how I ended up. So you're going to silicone on the other sides where it's smooth, and then the water, you know, the idea is that the water will go in from these parts that you were able to grind down, and then it just gets siliconed in, and then you can put some things around it, hide it, and I'm actually going to put some filters floss in there. Next step here, as you can see, is these are the A-Crate light diffuser stuff that I always use. This is just going to kind of frame the background. Use some GE Silicone 1. It's done, it's siliconed in, and as you can see here, I've also siliconed in the PVC. And so it looks pretty good. I am pretty happy with the way this is. As you can see, that's how the water will go in. And you know, the idea is as the water fills up, you can suck it out. So pretty easy. Again, don't have to drill the glass. I think it looks pretty good. We just got to let it dry now, and then we will move on to the next step. All right, the next thing that we're going to do here is measure this. We're going to measure the length and the height of the back as well as the sides, so we can figure out how much materials we're going to need for the background. And in this case, I am going to be using styrofoam to make a rock ledge around the perimeter, the sides and the background of the tank, which I think will look pretty cool. It's going to be challenging. It's usually easier if things are bigger. So here I am just time-lapsing, cutting pieces of styrofoam from the measurements. And I'm going to use these hot cutting tools here. One is like a little wand, as you can see, and the other one is a like taut wire. And both of them are very useful. There it is. Hard to see, but these things do the trick to cut the styrofoam and cut in detail to make it look as natural as possible. And as you can see, I've started to stack up pieces of styrofoam to do the corners here. You got to measure, again, these are the height of the background or of the tank, minus about 2 inches on the bottom to leave for substrate or whatever, whatever will go down there. And as you can see, it cuts right through it like warm butter. I'll show you. It's really pretty cool. I don't use it often enough, to be honest. I use a lot of natural materials, but when I do make something artificial in the background, I will usually use this if I'm using any kind of insulation foam or styrofoam or whatever. And turns out I have a lot of styrofoam left from my cave mouth salamander enclosure. So as you can see, pretty easy to cut shapes. Just a demonstration there for you. And then to hold these together, a really easy way to do that, as opposed to siliconing them, which is a pain. Just use these shish kebab sticks, these little wooden sticks, and you just kind of put it right through the middle. Pretty simple. Holds them together, as you can see. I did this quite a bit actually with my previous enclosure that I said, the cave salamander enclosure with all the styrofoam, and it worked out well. You're going to want to snip the end, so you can use some wire snippers to cut the excess wood off. And then you can see I'm using the time lapse again to shave down these corners, I guess if you want to call them, of the background. And then you can see I'm doing the background here using the same technique. It takes a little bit of time to carve in the detail, but it is well worth it. Make sure you have some ventilation, by the way, because it can get rather toxic-y. Toxic-y is not really a word, but I just made it up. And I'm going to be using some great stuff, pond and stone here, to foam this stuff in the back just to make sure it's nice and snug and So easiest way to do it is flip the tank over on its back. And the first thing I typically do, a lot of people have asked me to show all the steps. These are usually I consider is pretty boring, so I don't show all this usually, but I want to show exactly what I do and how long it takes. So it takes quite a bit of time to do all of this and let things dry and cure, but I'm just kind of fitting it in to make sure that the fit will be snug and making sure I understand how much more stuff I need to create more styrofoam. And it doesn't look great right now because it looks just kind of bulky and not really fitting exactly, but that's what the foam is for, and you'll see here shortly. And really it's just kind of like a puzzle. If it doesn't work, shave off a little bit more, add some more if it's not enough. Sky's the limit. You're really just creating art when you do this. And I just kind of do it as I go. A lot of people have a preset notion sometimes, and I just, with this one, I don't really know what I'm going to put in here, if anything at all. I'm just want to see if I can, to be honest, make a 5-gallon vivarium that looks realistic. And it's just, for me, I like the bigger ones. Bigger is better for me. I think it's I like the way they look more. But I really have wanted to make a small one for a while, and I'm really excited about doing this. So, well, here we go with the foam. As you can see, I'm just going to kind of layer the foam in the corners here. Just kind of get it all in those cracks and stuff. And again, you also want to make sure that there's not a lot of holes or something if you have an animal in one of these things, that you don't want animals to crawl back there and not be able to get back out and die. So a lot of it is kind of filling these gaps and cracks and things like that in the background. But this is really just so it'll adhere, but it really serves two purposes. So and this stuff does take a while to cure. There is a way you can make it cure a little bit faster. You can spray water on it when it's done, which I typically will do, just a light misting. And then I'll put a fan over the top of the tank to help it go quicker. Otherwise, you have to wait, usually like 24 hours, but you can wait a few hours if you do it like that for things to get nice and firmed up in terms of the foam. And I use the foam with everything. I use the foam with rocks and real rock and wood and things like that, because it just adheres so nicely to it versus some people use silicone. I don't like the silicone. I feel like silicone just kind of falls apart. It's rare that I'll do just an entire foam background anymore. I'll usually have things sticking on the foam. I know a lot of people like foam and a lot of people don't like foam, but for me it is good at what it was meant to be, which is an adhesive. And if you need to show it, the black stuff is better than the lighter stuff because it just looks more natural, and you can super glue or silicone things on it if you need to. But I'm just a fan of this. It's obviously meant for the water, so if it gets wet, I'm not worried about it. And I'm sure the gaps and cracks, the other one too, is okay, but I just don't typically like using that, again, because of the color and just trying to mask it and hide it. Trying to get all this stuff done here and see if we can get the background in using basically a whole can for this little 5-gallon aquarium, which is kind of amazing. I didn't think I would use all of it, but I really did. Again, just to make sure that everything is completely sealed in and that it is nice and snug and that there are not a lot of spaces or any at all really for some kind of animal. If there is an animal that's going to go in here that will get back there, and I just, got to press it down, and it's just kind of a process. Make sure you wear gloves, because when you get this foam on you, it's horrible. I've got it all over my clothes, and I've got pairs of running pants and sweatpants and sweatshirts and long sleeve shirts with this stuff on it, and it'll just never come off. It's horrible. I've ruined tons of clothes. Like a lot. It's just really annoying. So just be careful, wear gloves. Make sure when you put your arm in in the tank that it's not going to get it all over the sleeve or something like that, because I've, again, done it plenty of times. Like I said, just make sure that you take the time to really press this stuff in and seal it in. You know, like the foam is just going to push things back out. That's just what it does. But you just take the time to make sure that you are pressing the styrofoam into the expanding foam and that it's nice and snug. It's just well worth it. It's kind of a pain, but like I said, and this, you know, necessary evil when you are working with a background like this. This is kind of what it looks like. Not much to look at right now, just basically the expanding foam and the styrofoam carved up. You can start to see, you know, my vision a little bit here, but still not much to look at. I am going to paint the background with Drylock and Quikrete. This is something I've done in the past on several builds. Drylock is basically a light gray color, and the Quikrete is a charcoal color that I mix in with it. And it is going, you know, use this brush. It is basically in a deli cup, obviously, but it is basically going to look like that. You know, just kind of a dark base layer. And I'm just going to paint everything in here and just really saturate it on there. I'm not going to be able to get every little, you can't ever do that with styrofoam. I've very rarely done that. And these little brushes, by the way, are super cheap. You can buy like 20 of them in a pack. But one thing I haven't mentioned is I have to carve out the foam with a wire brush drill bit, which I'm doing here. And then I am going to layer on this stuff nice and thick, as you can see, to try to get it as thick as possible. And you can see I have a fan in the background that helps me dry as I go. And then I am basically doing a dry brush technique here with both a brown and a tan, as well as just some Drylock to make some nice highlights, which you'll see here in a moment. And I really like the finished product of how it looks. It really makes it look like it's some kind of rock. And I'm really happy with the way that this turns out. I've done it before several times, and it's really just cool the way it looks. I prefer natural rock, but with something this small, I'm just got to use a fake background. It's just not worth how heavy it would be if I were to load this up with real rocks. And then I'm going to use these branches here. These are just from outside. I've been letting them sit inside for about a month. And I'm going to just kind of press these into the background and then use super glue here, this Gorilla Glue, and just seal them in there. And as you can see, I just want this to look like a rocky embankment with some roots and things coming out. And I really, pretty easy. It didn't take too long, but I really like the way this came out. There's actually some dried moss on some of these, so it looks really cool. Mind the glare here, I'm sorry about that, but really enjoy this. Really think it's cool. I'm really happy with the way this thing turned out. This is a 5-gallon again, and really happy with the look and the way the roots look on it, and just really fun build for something so small. I've never built something this small before. And I am going to probably just put a little filter floss in there, like I said, to stop that up, and then put a false bottom with some Leica or some clay balls. And, you know, whether rock, substrate, whatever goes on the bottom, I'm not really sure. Don't even know if I'll put an animal in here or what I'll do with this. I have no room for it, to be honest. But I appreciate you all tuning in for this one. Appreciate the support, and stay tuned for more content.